For years, I had felt completely misunderstood, completely lost, and I felt like I didn't even have a direction or a way to even understand or explain myself. And through transforming my physique, through getting to the gym, all of that finally started to change. And I'm going to give you guys the exact framework that I did to get there. So before my identity, I was doing a lot of working. I felt like I was working hard, but all it ever felt like was I was surviving. I had a deep down feeling, knowing I was meant for more, but I didn't really trust myself to even take the first step or even go anywhere with my life. I didn't know where to put my effort. I didn't know where to start. I knew I had to change, but I didn't really know where I was going. So all I ever was stuck chasing approval because I didn't really have that belief built out to myself and I didn't have that belief to change. After my identity, I had built a physique that gave me proof I could do more. I gained trust in myself, I gained trust in my path, and I felt like I could take on anything no matter what the direction was, and I was no longer afraid to make decisions, and I developed habits that actually transferred and could better other areas of life. The key here is that when I got to the gym, when I started building my physique, I went from hoping to actually becoming someone. And here's the pattern I started noticing when I didn't know who I was. I was more than capable, but I still felt stuck. I knew how to work hard, but I didn't know where to put my effort and I didn't know where it would actually matter. And I wanted a reason to actually say no to things. I wanted standards in my life, but I didn't know why I should. I was stuck. I started thinking maybe I was just lazy. Maybe there was just something wrong with me. Or maybe I just cared too much and then the things that actually I was thinking about didn't really matter. Maybe I could just be like everyone else. But all those thoughts ever did was leave me stuck. My breaking point was with soccer because soccer I had played my entire life from the age of I was around what 8 years old here, 7 years old doing community ed. And when I got to high school, I eventually took a break here during COVID and I switched to cross country and I put my heart and soul into the sport. I remember passing out at the end of races, puking everywhere, and falling over at the finish line. But at the end of the day, I was getting made fun of so much and I was getting my approval in others that I ended up switching sports for soccer again. I ended up switching back to that sport that I loved my whole life. I remember that summer, I literally took a gap year. So I was setting up a net in my backyard and doing drills for hours. You can see here, I was doing drills for hours just to try and make the team. I remember picking up balls. I remember going early. I remember leaving latest. I was doing everything I possibly could to try and make the team. But when I got to tryouts eventually and I got subbed out, I knew it was over. Walking off that field, it felt like everything that I had sacrificed had meant nothing because I knew deep down when I got subbed off and I had that heart-wrenching feeling when I went to the coach on the verge of tears that my effort really hadn't mattered. And it was for the first time in that moment that I realized I had no idea who I actually was. And when that happened, I did what most people do when they feel lost. I thought the answer was to just do more. So I kept trying other things, harder and harder and harder, but effort alone was never ever changing anything. I was stuck in a cycle where I constantly felt misunderstood. I would have a thing that I wanted to do, and I would let my mood decide it because I no longer was trusting myself. I would think about going to the gym, I would think about doing something, and that mood would only ever lead to my inaction. That mood would only ever lead to me never actually doing it because I never thought I could do it, leading me to fall off, feel awful about myself, and repeat the process over and over and over again until it had gotten so solidified in my mind that I didn't want to do anything, that I felt like work just started feeling like effort. Things I used to love started to not even matter to me because it felt like I wasn't doing anything in the first place. And the trap that I fell in here was when my effort didn't matter, my logic started disappearing, and I tried to build my identity around a relationship instead. That same relationship made me put all of my energy into my mood. I was trying to keep other people happy, and by doing that, I wasn't acting, falling off again and falling in the same cycle of shame and doubt and not even trusting myself to the point where I didn't know who I was anymore and I didn't have any logic attached to where I was going. Every time it fell off, I reinforced the same belief. I started pushing people away and even isolating myself because I thought that was the only solution. I started holding all of my emotions inside and I didn't know what to do because when my emotions started driving decisions, every decision would reinforce the same loop. Every decision would reinforce that I was stuck. But the thing was here, I didn't need a crazy new solution. I needed a place where my effort just finally mattered and I could finally break the loop. And this is what happens when you stay in the loop long enough. You get in a constant cycle where you stop trusting yourself to make decisions. I started to try and find fulfillment in other people because I thought it was the only way out because I stopped thinking logically. I started overthinking everything to the point of doing nothing, further keeping me in the same loop, and I slowly lost who I was. But the worst part about it was I couldn't realize it, and I couldn't realize what was right in front of me until it was too late. Eventually, I had to ask myself, it had gotten so bad that I had to ask myself why things weren't changing. And eventually, something clicked. I knew that something needed to change. I just didn't know what needed to change. And I was so stuck that I finally had to ask why. And I realized out of all of this, that effort wasn't necessarily the problem. The problem was that my effort had nowhere to go. The gym was actually the first place in my life where my effort had finally mattered. I remember I started waking up at 5 a.m. just chasing that feeling, chasing that purpose. And when I could go to the gym, it wasn't just lifting the weights that changed me. It was the system that the gym had created. So what actually made the gym different? I had to start diagnosing that. I wondered why I had gotten fulfillment in the gym and nowhere else in my life. And it was because the gym had clear decisions instead of mood. The gym had consistent actions instead of resets. And the gym actually had real feedback instead of shame. As you can see here with soccer, I had everything besides the identity and it left me exhausted. I felt like I was putting in all this work for nothing. And that's why it kept me stuck. You can see here, only when your effort, identity, and there's an objective scoreboard is in place, that's when you can truly find who you are. That's when you can truly find fulfillment. And that's where the gym fell into all three of these categories. And this was when I realized that the gym was really just the simplest example of what I call the legitimate arena. I realized that this was the same loop I had been missing every single other place in my life because if I diagnosed every single thing that I was doing, if I go back to this, when I didn't have an objective scoreboard, when I tried to find fulfillment in others, all I ever would do was doubt myself. All I would ever do is doubt what I was doing, lack the action, and never move forward in life. Everything in this chart summarized the exact reason why I wasn't feeling the way I was feeling. I summarized it all into a legitimate arena, and I realized that in order for something to matter, in order for me to build proof for myself, I needed something that matched all three of these. And when it was so low, when I was so low and lost myself so much, the simplest way to get out of that was the gym because it was where effort instantly produced feedback and I could see a result of who I was becoming. What was really happening with the gym was it was working as the legitimate arena. It was when those three things existed at the same time, the objective scoreboard, the identity, and the effort, I could actually move myself forward because effort was rewarded with proof. Proof changed how I saw myself, and the changes were actually real. I felt like I was doing something that actually mattered again. And the thing that I realized here is that most men don't lack effort. Most men aren't necessarily lazy. They just lack a legitimate arena where they want their effort or they can see their effort actually matter. And this is exactly why the gym worked, because the effort created proof. I could see visible results in the mirror. I could see my body composition change. My actions were actually leading to visible results. I wasn't guessing anymore or feeling or wondering if I did that thing right in the eyes of another person because I could actually control what was happening. The progress was actually trackable. My strength was going up, my weight was going down. If my brain couldn't measure it, I could never trust it. I needed something that was so concrete, so objective, that I had no other option but to see the proof. And my identity actually came from the work I was doing. Unlike soccer, where I would hope things would work, when I would try and put effort and hope the coach saw it, I would actually be able to have a solid identity where I could see who I was becoming. Instead of saying, I hope I'm becoming disciplined with my feelings, I would say, I'm disciplined because the proof is there. My identity was built on proof finally, and that allowed me to actually thrive and find fulfillment in things again. And when effort, proof, and identity exist in the same place, that change that I needed, that change that I so desperately needed to retake my life, became inevitable. But here's the problem with this. Most guys try and build this out on their own, so they fall right back into the same loop. When you try and build a legitimate arena, you don't know what to measure, so you start chasing random workouts. You don't have a system for proof, so you start relying on motivation and feelings. and you don't build identity through execution. So every few weeks you restart. So even when you work hard, you still fall into the same loop where you have inaction because you don't know what to do. You start chasing random workouts. You rely on motivation over feelings because you're making your emotions, or you're letting your emotions decide what you do, which leads to that same cycle where you constantly fall off again. You constantly feel shame or doubt for your situation, and then reset and reinforce the loop over and over and over again because you don't know what to do and you keep relying on motivation and feelings. And that's the problem, because you fall off, you doubt yourself, and then you never want to change or never have trust in yourself to change. So it becomes harder and harder every single time to break the loop. But here's the thing: most men don't actually fail because they don't have the effort or because they're lazy. They fail because they're stuck in that emotion-led loop. They fail because they're stuck in that constant cycle of doubt and shame. And that's exactly why I built a system to break this loop. And that's exactly the systems that my clients run in Warrior Coaching. With my clients, I run them through a decision elimination system, which allows them to have pre-built decisions so that they're never relying on their motivation to decide what they want to do. I allow them to go through a system of identity by execution, which actually proves to themselves that they can become someone they're not. That actually proves to themselves that effort turns into reps and reps can turn into identity. And I check them through weekly calibration so that their effort will never get wasted. They see exactly where it's going to, and they have a clear framework and roadmap of exactly where they're going. And even after that, we have the transferring discipline framework so the gym doesn't just turn into gym discipline, and it can actually turn into life discipline, which allows you to apply this effort, allows you to apply this newfound identity to other arenas of life. And this is exactly what happens when your effort finally compounds. As you can see here, Juan gained 4 pounds of lean weight while balancing school, work, life, and as an RA. And as a result of that, confidence followed the proof. Kurt lost 11 pounds in a month as a full-time college student working part-time while rebuilding his self-trust in himself. Shirts that haven't felt good or fit him in almost a year are fitting good now. And this is Carter, a prime example of the transferring discipline framework. Carter lost 8 pounds as a Division I athlete while increasing his long jump PR by 17 inches just over this past year, while building confidence at the same time. And this is the exact proof that discipline can transfer across arenas. So how do you know if this is for you? This is for you if you know you're capable of more, but your effort just isn't compounding yet. You're tired of restarting every few weeks. You just want a physique that reflects the discipline you already have, and you want a system, not another random program. You're ready to execute long after motivation disappears. But this isn't for everyone. This is definitely not for you if you're looking for a quick fix or you think systems are going to replace hard work. Because the only way that a system will work is if you're willing to work hard at it and it reinforces your effort to even work harder. If you're not willing to execute consistently or you want motivation instead of structure, this is definitely not for you. And Warrior Coaching is only meant for men who finally want effort to compound. If you feel like this is the exact thing that you've been missing, there's a link in the description to book a call, and we can see if Warrior Coaching is the right fit for you. Hope you guys got some value out of this video. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments, or check out my Instagram, Keegan Becker, down in the description too.